Someone in the chat said that Elon Musk is being a petty asshole. And my question is, if the richest man on earth is not a petty asshole, then who can be a petty asshole? Honestly, if I happen to have so many companies, I would probably be a petty asshole as well. In fact, most of the people that I met, which held some level of power, I'm talking like university professors, employers, most of them were petty assholes. I don't know why I like Elon Musk. Apparently, you're not allowed to like him now. It's the H-1B visa debate, so you gotta say you don't like him. But I personally do. I don't know what I find endearing about him. Maybe it's different than all the other rich assholes, which just refuse to engage with the public. Like Jeff Bezos, for instance, right? Like, what's the last thing Jeff Bezos said? What is the thing that he tweets? Like, he just doesn't even engage with the common folk. What about Klaus Schwab? Or Joe Biden? Like, what did Joe Biden tweet that genuinely feels like he's trying to communicate with the public? You know, at least Elon Musk is trying. Like, he's playing Diablo and Path of Exile and stuff. I just find that endearing. I don't know, like, am I allowed to look up to certain people? Apparently not, right? Like, if you're looking up to someone and you're like, well, this person is doing something right. No, you're sucking up, you're dick riding, you're not allowed. Okay, go back, watch anime, and find the fictional character. Go and watch Uzumaki Naruto and try to be like Uzumaki Naruto, because human beings aren't perfect, and if someone isn't perfect, we need to focus only on the flaws and then completely disregard everything else that they're doing, which is positive. So, right now, the reason that I like him is he's going ham on the UK, and I think like the UK was severely begging for a stern talking to, a stiff upper lip, as the Brits like to say. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk is going after UK because of the controversy with the H-1B visa, so he's trying to distract. But like, if the distraction is useful in itself, again, it's a conversation that desperately needed to be taking place. Once more people join, I will give you my experience with what I think about British culture and like the huge amount of culture shock that I experienced when going there. And it's also the thing that the United Kingdom used to be my favorite country on earth. Like if I were to choose, it's like, V, you can leave Romania and join any other nation you want. And you'd have asked me this when I was in high school, all the way up until I finished med school, I would have flat out said Britain. Like, Britain was the shit. And now I am so glad that I'm not in Britain. Like, holy crap. It's like, Jesus. I'm insanely happy that I didn't make the worst decision. Because I could have had certain opportunities. Like, I could have moved there. Especially after I finished med school, I could have just gone in, and a lot of my colleagues did it. It's not that difficult. You get on a plane, you go there, and you apply for a job, and there you go. You're in a hospital now, working for the NHS. I could have probably had, like, a good life. But no. No. So let me tell you a little bit about Britain. Let me tell you why I absolutely dislike the British culture, right? Because, like, there's the British culture that you read about in books and that you see in movies. A culture of overtly politeness, where everyone is nice to one another. You know, they're all carrying umbrellas, and they're very well-mannered. They use words like 1,000 pardons, you know? They have, like, this culture of... I don't even know if you can say conservatism, but, like, everyone is a gentleman there. All the women are ladies. And that was, like, the culture that was being presented to me when it comes about Britain. But then you realize what modern Britain is, and it's nothing like that. So I'll tell you my honest opinion about British culture. The level of propaganda that the British public is subjected to is borderline authoritarian. Like I haven't seen so much propaganda. I can't really compare it to communist Romania, because it's like not really there. But if they keep trying a little bit harder, I think they're going to reach it. Like they're not North Korean level. I think they may be at China's level now when it comes to propaganda. Like, let me tell you what I mean by this. The moment I got off the airplane, The moment I stepped off the airplane, it was all about Ukraine. And it's like, this company donates a part of the earnings for Ukraine. Ukrainian refugees, this way, please. Keep fighting for the war in Ukraine. You can donate money and it will reach Ukraine. If you buy a t-shirt from us, it's going to go to a charity that will help people in Ukraine. And I'm thinking, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But, like, I'm in Romania. The war is literally across the border. I can get into a car. And within one day, I'm on the battlefield. And there is, like, less propaganda here. And, like, all Romanians are on board with helping the Ukraine. I think, like, the last poll showed it's, like, 20, maybe, like, 25% of people that were against. But just so you can understand my culture, like, if you're accused of being pro-Russia in Romania, like, that's kind of like being called a racist, right? And despite all that, we don't have this level of propaganda. Like, we don't have, like, all these posters and all these billboards, and that's, like, just the thing that I got when getting off the plane. And again, like, the reason is, like, the regime is just telling people what to think. Like, this is the current issue. This is what we're trying to promote to the public, and it's everywhere. And then you go into the subway. And when you go into the subway, the same thing. It's like pamphlets after pamphlets. It's like, make absolutely sure that if you look at another person, you don't stare, because staring is rape culture. Just all this bombardment about diversity everywhere. Every single commercial. Every single ad. Like, I couldn't find, because at one point I was wondering, it's like, is there a single commercial that just has a heteronormative, ethnically British family in it? I couldn't find one, chat. I couldn't find one. Like, just one poster. Because, like, at one point, like, I'm coming from Romania, and I'm, like, used to the commercial to represent the people there. And so, like, when I went to Britain, I was trying to find just one poster. Just one. Like, I was playing even this game with my wife. It's like, can we find our family represented in one poster? The answer is no. Every single poster, and it's like another interesting thing. My wife noticed this. The man in posters, almost all the time, it's an African American, and the woman is Caucasian. Like, you're not going to even notice a family of African Americans. No. It's like every single one, wherever you look. Then you go and you notice billboards like CCTV footage. Like, this area is supervised. It's under CCTV control, facial recognition. You are watched, citizen. We know what you're doing. Like, every move, we know. We are aware. It's like, holy shit, you go... You go and you want to take a piss in a bathroom, and it's like, this place is monitored by CCTV. Behave yourself. It's like, oh my god. Fuck. And then you're constantly reminded that there's terrorism. Like when you go into the airport or when you go into the London Tube, they constantly say stuff like, let me see if I can remember, because they had like this phrase. If you noticed a suspicious or unattended luggage, contact the nearest police officer, and we will sort it out. Spot it, say it, sort it. It's like, and they constantly tell you this. It's like, okay, we're watching for terrorism. We're watching for terrorism. Like, we're watching it. Terrorism. It's like, holy shit, dude. You go into a park, you want to throw a little trash, right? Like, you buy a hot dog or something, and now you have, like, your hands filled with trash, and you want to throw it away. There's no bins. There's no bins in the park. And it's like, what fucking madness is this? Like, can't they afford to put a bin? Like, I'm walking with my garbage for half an hour, and I can't throw it away. It's like, well, yeah, but, see, we had it, and then, like, people were causing the terrorism. Like, who's causing the terrorism? We can't say. But why were they causing the terrorism? We do not want to talk about it. Like, just understand. We are fighting terrorism. It's like, all right. They don't want cash anymore. They don't want cash anymore. Like you go, this is maddening. Like coming from Romania, I'm wondering, like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Okay, so you go to the London Zoo, or you go to the London Dungeon, or you go to the London Eye, or you go to anything that the government owns, right? Like something that's, credit card, We only worship the banks here. The banks, they starve. The British banks require your purchase. What the fuck? But I got like money, I got power. We do not like the money. The money, it is dirty. It is dirty. It causes pollution. We want credit card only. Here in the United Kingdom, we like the Visa. The Visa provides. The Visa take care of us when we are asleep. The Visa watches over us. Oh, my fuck. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. Do you have the Visa? We must have the Visa. Or the MasterCard. The MasterCard is also good. Just give us the card. We do not like money. We hate money because money we cannot track. And if we cannot track, we cannot have civilization. Civilization cannot exist if we not... And I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. Is it like Keir Starmer's Britain? Like when you go into Britain, does Keir Starmer need to know everything you do? Yes! He needs to know your transaction. He must be made aware. Electronic only. Digital. Only digital. And is this a free country? Yes, it is free. And if you claim otherwise, there is something mentally wrong with you. You must be a bigot or a racist or from Putin. They have two religions in Britain. Like, you can pick, right? The religion is either Islam, so you inshallah, and then you're respected, right? Like, the moment you inshallah, oh, citizen, we have respect for you. 100 respect, but just more respect. Or you can be woke, right? If you're woke, they also respect you. The thing is, like, environmentalism is the shit. Like, environmentalism in Britain is the de facto state religion. I'm not even kidding. Like there is environmentalists in the EU, but like I don't think an American can wrap their mind about the environmentalist cult. Like it's literally a cult. I'm expecting that a church will pop up anytime in Britain, dedicating itself for the environment. Because everywhere you look, everything, it's like, you need to save the planet. The Earth is dying. Tiberium infestation has reached critical levels. Only the British government, through the wisdom of the Supreme Leader Keir Starmer, can we finally crack down on the pollution. Carbon is everywhere. All you guys are producing carbon. We must regulate. We must make it. Like, dude, you go into a mall, just so you can understand, right? You go into a mall, and the elevator doesn't work. And you gotta... we shut it down because we are conserving the energy. The energy is killing the planet. It's polluting the planet's core. We must by preventing this elevator from taking you up, we are defending the Earth's crust. Cow farts. A new legislation will save us. It will prevent the cows from farting by taxing the farmers. And as the farmers get taxed through the magic of socialism, we are going to defend the planet from exploding. It's like, dude, like you get to see construction companies. It's like, yes, we're construction companies, but we are protecting the environment. You get like, when you go to the hotel, there's like a little billboard over there and it says, please do not leave any electronics plugged because you're killing the fucking planet. Like, dude, everything. You know, I went into a store. So I went into a steakhouse. A steakhouse. Do you know what was on the top of the menu, chat, in the steakhouse? I'm curious if anyone in the chat can guess, right? So no, imagine this, right? Like, you're walking down the street, and you find, like, this place, which is in a tourist trap, like, allegedly it's serving good shit. And it's called a steakhouse, right? And you open the menu. Can you guess what is on the fucking top of the page? Vegan, yes! How the fuck did you know? How the fuck did you know? It's Jesus fucking Christ. It's like, what is wrong with these people? I was constantly wondering, like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? What is wrong with their culture? Why are they like this? Oh my God. And so, the level of propaganda is off the fucking charts. Just off the fucking charts. Again, I can't compare it with Soviet Romania because I admit that in Romania it was worse, but I'm pretty sure the British are trying to get to that level. And so, it's just, no, like seriously, the culture is toxic. Like, I don't understand how they can call it a free country with all this shit. Like how much, I'm genuinely curious, like, how many millions, if not billions of pounds are being invested every single year by the British government to train people how to think. Because all of this advertisement, all of this push, all of these instilling of behaviors, they're not grassroots. And they must cost money. Like, someone has to pay for this level of bullshit. And so, recently, a scandal popped up again. The grooming gangs scandal. Now this scandal, I don't even know how it popped up. Like, maybe someone can tell me. But this was like something that happened in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, it turns out that there were grooming gangs in the UK. And the cops didn't want to do anything about it because they didn't want to be called racist. And I remember, like, I had this talk with Sargon. It's like, Sargon, don't be retarded. Like, this is what the cops hope, that you're retarded. But you're not, right? Like, you don't think that the cops were... No. It's corruption, Sargon. It's corruption. Like, some people should go to prison over this. It's corruption. And Sargon was like, no. No, you don't understand. Like, in Britain, being called racist is horrible. And it's like, I genuinely believe them. Like, I genuinely believe that there were little girls being harmed, but, like, the cops genuinely didn't want to be called... come on. No, Carl, no. No. And it turns out that I was right. Now, the interesting thing is that last time the scandal was open, a lot of people were focusing on the Islamophobia. The Islamophobia was the issue. Now people are going after the politicians. And Elon Musk seems to be leading the charge. And the politicians don't like this at all. They're like, oh, how can he possibly interfere in our democracy? I mean, to be fair, he is not very subtle about it. I'll just show you what he posted. Like, this is Elon Musk's recent tweet, which has upset the British government a little bit. Going after Jeff Phillips. She is safeguarding minister. She refused an inquiry into the grooming gangs. Can someone tell her she is supposed to safeguard children, not gangs? And this is what Elon Musk said. And this caused a lot of shock and dismay in the British public, because, again, you're not supposed to say this. Like, the way they handle problems in Britain, unlike other countries where it's like, okay, who caused the problem? Can we punish? Like, we finally get to punish. The prison system is hungry. They need some financing. Like, let's take care of our good old prison system. Let's punish some people. Yeah, Britain doesn't do that. Britain is like, let's hide the problem under the rug. We're a civilized nation. Such things just don't exist here, right? Don't talk about... If you talk about it, you're going to go to jail, right? So the problem is the people who notice, the people who speak, those are the ones that we can crack down because they're not violent and they're not powerful. But like, the gangs are actually powerful, so we're going to shut the fuck up. And so now people don't care about the gangs. People are like looking at the politicians. And Elon Musk is asking questions, and the politicians don't really appreciate it. So I want you to see, like, the level of, can I say unhinged, or is that like something the Democrats coined? Because they used to use the word unhinged a lot during the last presidential campaign. Um, Keir Starmer must stop Elon Musk before someone gets killed. Ooh la la! Like, how much do you want us to dial up the rhetoric? And the answer is yes. Push that fear pornography. If they push the fear pornography a little bit more, I think like people will need to show ID in order to be able to access the internet, because there's going to be so much fear porn on the internet. There was like another interesting one. But basically, like, that is their main concern right now. Like, a lot of people associated with the government, the concern isn't, it's like, okay, well, these grooming gangs. Have we taken care of the issue? Are they still operating? Who were the people responsible? Who can we send to prison for allowing it to happen? Who should get fired? Like, that's like a normal and healthy and sane conversation, right? But instead, it's like, how can we ban Elon Musk? Like, he is the problem. We need to arrest the issue. Like, how can you have a civilized country if people keep holding politicians accountable? What the fuck is this shit? And so, it's interesting when you see, like, Sky News journalists, instead of, like, being excited that this is happening, and let me see if I can find the actual Sky News journalist so you can understand the problem here. Right, so this is a Sky News journalist, and you'll notice a trend, right? Like, they're all stereotypical in this manner. They all have the disabilities to their comment section. I don't know why. I don't know why they keep all having this. Like, this is a uniform that they keep sharing. Putting aside that this is not how democracy works in any way. This is very interesting, right? So, like, the journalist lectures you, the citizen, who doesn't understand how democracy works, that in a democracy, you do not get business people to have political opinions. I mean, look, if you're Elon Musk, you need to shut the fuck up, because British democracy is so fragile, is so weak and pathetic that your very opinion, like if you have a thought and you're like, yeah, I kind of don't like the whole grooming gangs in Britain, you're destroying their democracy over there. Like they're relying on the propaganda. They spend billions or millions into propaganda, and when you're breaking that narrative, you're destroying the very fabric of their society. Imagine you may actually do some harm and the grooming gangs can't operate. Heaven forbid. Putting aside that this is not how democracy works in any way, shape, or form, the government needs to figure out how to deal with Elon Musk. So this is how a democracy functions, by figuring out who criticizes the politicians and then finding out a way to deal with them. This is not sustainable. By the way, sustainable is the new communist slogan. Like, it used to be equality. Now it's sustainability. So, like, the grooming gangs should remain sustainable, right? Like, is this what he's saying? Like, are they environmental friendly? Are the grooming gangs getting a high ESG score? Here's my take on it. It's interesting how a journalist, instead of, like, cheering that this is happening, it's like, wow, Elon Musk is spitting fire at our politicians. This is going to be amazing for the ratings. Like, I have an opportunity right now to write an editorial. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that want to read it. Now is the time to make a name for myself. If I have, like, a good take, like, let's send our investigators, let's send our journalists, let's have Elon Musk for an interview. Like, this is going to do wonders for our ratings. No, they're going to act as the PR arm of the sitting government right now. That's interesting. That's very interesting, isn't it? Isn't it fascinating, right? Because, like, the people's press, isn't the press that's supposed to hold the politicians responsible? Anyway, let me bust through some super chats, because you guys are holding me responsible. Jacob Andrew, it's really good that Elon is talking about this. They deserve to be dragged through the mud because they closed their eyes when all the girls were being abused. Like, that's the thing, you know, no one disagrees with this take. Like, the government itself goes like, yeah, this happened. Like, they're admitting it happened. It's like, okay, and? Well, no, because it was, like, some of the takes that I've heard, Jesus fucking Christ, this happened so long ago that if we were to investigate and look into it now, nothing good would come out of it because we're just wasting money. It's like, hold on a little bit. What is the statute of limitation for child trafficking? I don't think you're right. I don't think you have a point. No, I think you can still punish those people. And even if you can't punish the people, like let's assume British law functions in such a way that there is no such thing as the statute of limitation is 5 days. Whatever. Let's find out who the politicians that knew about it are, so that people don't vote for them again. Let's find out who the police officers were, like who was the police chief, so maybe they can get fired. Like even if you can't punish them legally, which by the way I doubt that's the case, but like even if we were to assume that maybe the people involved have fled the country, maybe they're in a place where you can't extradite them, fine. But what about the police officers that knew about it? Can they not be fired? What about like the people who were in on it? Huh? Well, like, should the parents not get justice? Money from the government? Anything like that? No? Why not? The people in the UK would be better off. And Minecraft says, Lixion, UK is Dev's dream country. No, he already lives in the UK. It's called Canada. CGR 902, how would the UK react if my giant tire fire for the glory of Allah? If it's for Islam, they don't care. Zlixian, they need to do more to the politicians than look. Well, they're banking on that rhetoric. Like that's another thing, right? Like if you put that rhetoric on Twitter and you're a British person, they arrest you. Because that's the whole thing, right? This is how they maintain control. Like the level of technology that exists right now in the world is something that didn't exist throughout human history. And so if you want to protest, you can protest. Like that's fine. They will let you protest. They will let you go out. They will let you do shit. And then they come to your house and they arrest you when you're alone. And this is how China does it. Like China has perfected the art of cracking down on protests. And it's incredibly effective, right? Like back in the day, they had to go there with the water cannons and the police and the batons and blah, blah, blah. Now they don't need to do that. Like now they can just seize your bank accounts like they did to the truckers in Canada. Give me 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I'm back. The problem is the class divide on the UK. Since the victims were lower class, the police and politicians did not care. If the victims were middle or upper class, it may be different. You know what? I think you're right. Yeah, no, unironically, I do think you have a point there. Britain is a class system. Like, a lot of people are talking about race because, identity politics, and because the grooming gangs, like, they had people themselves which actually did say that, yeah, like, it had a racial component to it. And also a religious component. But there's also the class component. Like, Britain, a lot of Americans, like, they don't understand this way of thinking because you don't have it in your country. Like, I've spoken with Americans, you genuinely don't give a shit about it. Like, Americans care a lot about race and gender. Race mostly, gender not so much. But like race is kind of like class in Britain. Like Britain does have the racial component, but like the class is incredibly strong there. Like you will notice, it's not just having wealth, right? It's not just having money, but it's also like a behavior, a speech pattern, the way you conduct yourself, right? And so, if you're in Britain, and I notice this with a lot of people, like, they instantly, like, when you start talking with someone, they instantly categorize you, whether you're upper class compared to them or you're lower class. And if you're a class below them, like, they become very cold, very distant. But if you're upper class, like, they immediately try to impress you. It's so fucking weird. But yeah, like, you have a point. That if these were like girls from rich families, they're like upper class families, like then they would care. Then they would get absolutely livid. They would get. It's been like this since the Doomsday Book. They consider us property. Most of the travel protests, but the problem is the class divide in the UK. I already read this. I do think like the class system is kind of dying out a little bit though, because race and gender is becoming something more pronounced in the UK, and also everyone is getting poor. But yeah, no, it's definitely a class thing. And so anyway, I am curious if they're actually going to start talking about banning sitter in the UK. From what I've noticed, it would seem as if Trump and Elon have a deal that Trump is going to protect Twitter the same way the CCP is protecting their telecommunication services. So China has Huawei, right? And if you decide to fuck with Huawei, like let's say you're in Canada, right? And they arrested like some chick, I think it was called like, she was nicknamed the Red Dragon or something. Like she was a director with Huawei. Immediately China arrested like 2 Canadians in response, right? So like if you fuck with Huawei, China fucks with you. Like you don't get like the Huawei fighting back. No, you get the CCP. And there were like many instances of this where Huawei was stealing from Apple. Like you had Apple factories and technologies in China, and Huawei was actually stealing their technology. They were replicating their shit. And they were causing IP trademark violations. And when Apple wanted to fight back, the CCP came in and was like, no, if you fight with them, we're going to fuck with you. And I think like that's one of the things that Trump and Elon Musk is doing. It's like Elon Musk will probably force the EU and Britain to have to allow sitter to exist. Wasn't there like a talk, which I don't know if it was even said as a joke, but it was like, if you ban Twitter in the EU, then America pulls itself from NATO. And everyone was like, mindfuck. They were like, what? Like, how can you say that? How can... It's like, well, how can you ban Twitter? So, like, you're fine with using America's protection. You're fine with using America military with their taxpayer money, with their soldiers, their lives. You're fine with that, just not the American culture. You're like, no, like, free speech, no, we don't do that shit here. How about you get fucked? It's not a buffet where you get to pick and choose. Take the whole thing. But, like, you know, like, the idea, like the very notion that somehow Trump would be the one that's mental for suggesting this, when the EU itself is the mental one. Like, you're willing to jeopardize your national security, like Europe's security, you're willing to jeopardize that because you can't handle Elon Musk being mean to you on Twitter. Are you fucking insane? Are you loco? Like, that's how the problem should actually be placed as, not the other way around. Now, let's talk a little bit about election interference, how can Elon Musk, right? Like, how can Elon Musk talk this way to Britain? Because this is my favorite take, right? So my favorite take is that because Elon Musk is a rich person and he's connected to Trump, what he says has consequences, so he should not be able to talk to Britain this way. And for some fucking reason, they all forget about 2016, right? It's not even 10 years ago. It's not that old. Like a lot of us were alive when it happened, right? And you have Obama preaching to Britain and saying that they will, like, America will put Britain at the back of the line if they go for Brexit. So, like, if Britain goes for Brexit, America will punish them. And I just, again, like, I want you to understand British culture, right? Like, I want you to understand, again, like, not you guys in my chat, but, like, how Britain thinks as a whole. When Donald Trump came back, he said the opposite. It's like, no, you guys got Brexit. Let's give you a good deal. Let's trade and like, put you in front of the line, because you guys, historically, you know, we got not just you as good allies, but our roots as Americans come from Britain. Like, we need to look after you guys. And when Trump came to London, they had like that big baby Trump balloon. That, you remember that madness, right? Meanwhile, recently, when there was a poll in the UK asking, like, what is the best thing that came out of America, Obama was one of the names. So Obama is the guy that wanted Britain to be at the back of the line, while Trump was the guy that wanted to be, and they hate Trump, but they love Obama. Fuck off. Seriously, like, this is insane. Like, you don't have to like Trump's policies, you don't have to like him as a person, but like, if the most powerful nation on earth has a man that wants to be your friend, and it's like, yeah, you know what, I like your fucking country. Like, well, I mean, he likes my country, what can I say? Why would you say negative things about it? Zlixian, Trump needs to sever diplomatic relations with the UK. Well, that's another thing, right? Like, Labour, like some people associated with Labour and some British NGOs were actually trying to get Kamala Harris to win. And so, like, why is it okay for Britain to interfere in American elections, but it's not okay for an American citizen, Elon Musk, to have his takes on what's going on with British politics? It's fucking insane. The UK politicians hate Trump. No, I get it that the UK politicians hate Trump, but I don't understand why the normal people hate Trump. That doesn't make sense. Like, I would say, okay, well, maybe they hate Trump because, yeah, let me put it this way. Let's say Chairman Z, right? Chairman Z would visit Romania, and he would say, like, oh, Romania is such a nice country, I really like it. I want us to trade with Romania. I want us to trade with Romania. I want to make Romania rich. Like, I want you guys to be our best trading partners. Well, if Chairman Z said that, the reason I would have doubts is because, well, it's China. They're subversive. Like, they're up to something, you know? Like, you don't trust them. And so you'd be like, you know, that's nice what Chairman Z said, but I don't trust him. But if the American president said that, I would be like, well, you know, at least it is what it is. Like let's say Kamala Harris won the presidency and she came to Romania and said, yeah, like, we actually think that Romania is a close ally and we want to invest more in Romania, we want to open more businesses in Romania. I'll be like, well, I mean, well, she is a Democrat, but she likes Romania. I can't really be disparaging to her for that. Like, she's actually doing something good for the country, and, like, it's not good for the Americans, I think. Like, I don't like her policies, I don't like the idea that she wants to tax unearned gains, and I think she's going to be disastrous for the American economy. But as a Romanian, you know, for my country, she seems to be alright. And so, like, I would have a more nuanced view of the person. It wouldn't be, like, black and white. It would be like, well, I mean, for Romania, what can I say? Like, I'm sorry, Americans, but, like, Kamala Harris for president, like, it's good for Romania. It is what it is. Yeah. The European Union is butthurt because Trump likes Hungary. I will tell you the thing with Hungary, all right? It's not rocket science. A lot of Americans don't understand Eastern European politics at all. Eastern European politics are not forged by ideology. Like most of the political parties in Europe, they do not have ideology. What they do have is corruption, but also they form opinions and ideas based on history, the current neighbors, and the resources available. And so, if you're neighboring Russia, you want to be into NATO. Like, it's not even up for debate. You're going to behave like your entire foreign policy is going to be shaped by the fact that you're neighboring Russia. I just want to point out, you know, like, a lot of people don't understand. It's like, oh, you're buying into the propaganda. No, listen. There is a reason why all these post-Soviet states want to join NATO. It's not like why NATO is going to Russia. It's like, why are these post-Soviet states wanting to join NATO? You're not going to find Mexico wanting to join a Chinese alliance. You're not going to find Canada wanting to join a Chinese military alliance. Why? Because America respects its neighbors. America is kind of like the gang that knows not to shit in its own neighborhood. I mean, if they're a gang of crooks, at least they shit somewhere else. Like, they go in another neighborhood and they cause trouble. They don't cause trouble on their home turf. Right? Like, notice how America is not trying to actually conquer Mexico. They're not trying to actually invade Canada. Like, they are doing shit in the Middle East. They are doing shit in Ukraine. But, like, when it comes to their own land, when it comes to their neighbors, you guys are treating them incredibly fairly. Now, look at Russia's history. And I'm not talking about communism, but even before that, it has protection tasks from the nearby neighbor. It was like, oh, you're going to give us protection bodies so that the Ottomans don't come over you. Like throughout the entire history, Russia has subverted, has been incredibly negative towards its neighbors, and this is why all these countries are joining NATO. But when it comes to Hungary, the problem is different. It's resources. Like, Hungary doesn't have a place to get its natural gas from. And so a lot of people say, well, Orban this, Orban that. It doesn't matter who's in charge. Whomever is in charge will still need gas. And so now a lot of politicians in Europe, they're trying to get gas from Russia, but to launder it in such a way that it looks politically convenient. So, like, maybe it comes from Russia, but it goes through other countries, and then when we get it at a higher price, but... Right? So, this is the reason why they hate Hungary. They hate Hungary because, well, where are they going to get their gas from? And if they get gas from Russia, they gotta be nice to Russia. They're still a European country. Like, they're not nice in the same way that... other nations would be, right? But, it is what it is. Trump should absolute power move drop out of NATO, join BRICS. It'll be really funny. If Trump, okay, here's the thing with NATO. A lot of people don't understand that there are no, like, right or wrong reasons. Instead, what you get is trade-offs, right? So, if you look at world history, some of the most nasty conflicts that mankind has ever witnessed are either in China or in Europe. The worst conflicts that happened in China are based around civil wars. So now you have, like, the CCP controlling the Chinese with an iron fist. So if you wouldn't have the CCP, chances are you'd have a lot more bloodshed and conflicts in China. That's my take studying history. That's what history has shown us. Like, maybe things would be different, but again, I personally think that even if the CCP were to collapse, you'd need some other form of dictatorship. Otherwise, you'd get more civil wars. The other type of conflicts were the ones in Europe. The ones in Europe are some of the worst mankind has ever faced because they spread outside of Europe. All the time, every time. And the last time it spread outside of Europe, people got so fucking pissed off, they split the atom and decided to nuke a country not once but twice. And so, one of the main reasons that conflicts did break out in Europe is mostly because of Germany and Russia and the Ottoman Empire. These three players consistently, over time, either due to arrogance or other thing, managed to piss off the rival nations, the nations around them, and eventually it ended up in war. And so NATO makes it so that you don't have European countries pumping up their own militaries constantly, right? You don't have the Poles trying to compete with the Germans. You don't have the Germans militarizing. You don't have the French militarizing, trying to catch up. If all these European countries would find themselves without NATO, they would start entering an arm race of unparalleled proportions. Because it wouldn't just be, we're worried about Russia. No, like now it would be, we're worried about Germany and we're worried about France and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, like Germany is not allowed to have a military, but that didn't stop them after World War I. So, if America was to pull out of NATO over 50 or 60 years, I wouldn't be surprised if you have like other major conflicts happening in Europe. Like even now you have ideological conflicts between Western Europe, Brussels, and Eastern Europe. Like, imagine if you had like another military alliance between the V4, right? From Eastern Europe, you have like Hungary, Czechs, Poland, maybe Romania would join and Bulgaria, and it would be on the other side Germany and France. Like it's just like an unthinkable scenario, and so if Trump, well, first of all, he's not going to pull out of NATO because, like, pulling out of NATO would require the Congress to sign in on it, if I'm not mistaken, and it takes a couple of years. Like, you need to announce it, and by the time he actually gets it done, like, his presidency would be over and the other guy would pull it back in. But it would be really bad for the world's stability. Again, this is why I like America. See, I'm not ungrateful, unlike other people. I'm generally very grateful for America because it does maintain peace in Europe. With all of the costs, you know, like for instance, right now we have to buy liquid gas from the Americans. That's a cost. But we're not going to war with Germany, so that's also a thing. China will come to save us. China is not really interested in conquering places that are far away. China's empire, from what I could see, is more like the Portuguese Empire. What China does is that it usually starts trading with you or maybe gives you some loans. And in exchange, they will want a port city, right? So like if let's say China would conquer Romania, like how that would look like. They would probably make sure that all the politicians and everyone in charge would never speak ill of China. Like all the things that the politicians would say would be nice about China. And then they would probably send a couple of divisions into the port of Constanza. So they would guard the port. And once they guard the port, they put tariffs on what comes in, what goes out. And that's it. That's what China does. Like, it just wants to control trade routes and sell shit. Now, if you happen to be within China, like you're a Chinese citizen, then it's bad. Like, that's when it's bad. You got social credit score, you got spyware everywhere, you got massive censorship, no freedom. It's really bad. So, like, the Communist Party for China is bad for the people in China, and it's also bad for the neighbors. It's bad for Taiwan, it's bad for Russia. Like, right now, it's good for Russia, but if they show weakness and they start losing the war, I wouldn't be surprised if China tries to reclaim some of its contested territories. And so, all in all, they have a different way of expanding. Like, they have different geopolitics than Russia does. It's interesting. Like, all these countries have different ways of doing things, right? Like, the European Union has a different way of expanding. They will fuck your nation, they will fuck your industry, they will buy your politicians, but they do it, it's like they convince you that it's for your own good, right? So it's like, sign the agreement, and then we're going to push so many legislations and regulations on your ass, and all of a sudden you notice that all the companies that are springing up in your country are foreign companies, right? It's like very, very few Romanian companies, but you get French companies, German companies, and then America does things differently, right? China does it differently, Russia does it differently, Israel does it very differently. Yeah, these are the major players. And you need to understand, it's not like a strategy game where it's like paint the map. Like, everyone has different competing interests. And if you're a little nation being caught in the middle, like for instance, right now, China has a different interest than Russia has in Romania. NATO is saving the $1 trillion F-35 project. I'm actually curious if that project was money laundering or did they actually make something that's bad. Because whenever you invent something, especially if it's a plane, you're going to end up inventing some shit that just doesn't work, but you already invested money in it. Like, you can't make inventions without failing. And so I'm aware about the multi-billion-dollar plane, which the Americans created and then threw away. But I'm curious, like, if it was just money laundering there, or did they, like, try to make something and it just didn't work? If America leaves Europe alone, the most likely scenario is that the EU will fill the power vacuum. No, I don't think so, because, like, a lot of nations don't trust the EU, specifically because the Germans, right? And I think like what would be more likely is the individual nations would just start militarizing themselves. So like Romania would start pumping a lot more of its GDP into its military. Like you may see like a 10-15% rise in GDP, and like all these nations would just start having massive militaries overnight. The West's focus on Russia instead of China is infuriating. Russia gave them a reason, that's why. Right now, I think that the West doesn't want Russia and China to work together. Because if that happens, then it would even be difficult for NATO to keep them from fighting. And so, the idea is to checkmate Russia, right? Like, have NATO on its borders with missiles pointed at it. And if China does something, then NATO will tell Russia, hey, we got missiles pointing at you, like, best stay out of it. I think this is what's happening. It's not that they're not focusing. The main issue is that the European Union sabotaged itself by destroying its own industry with regulations. And so a lot of the shit we're importing is from China. And just like the European Union realized, oh shit, all of our energy is from Russia because we destroyed our energy sector with environmentalism, in the future, if a conflict does happen with China, they're going to have a very bad time disconnecting from it. My battery died, so the troll is dead. Yeah, I mean the environmentalist thing. Look at France. Like, France doesn't give a shit about gas, about electricity because they're having nuclear power plants. Germany destroyed its nuclear power plants. A lot of the environmentalism comes from Russia. And so, yeah. Like, that's actually, it's so visible as well. Like, you have a pipeline, which is from Gazprom, and that doesn't get any protesters. And then you have, like, another pipeline that's from somewhere else, and all of a sudden the environmentalists are there protesting and the televisions are filming. It's so obvious what's happening, but, yeah. What if Europe just made a military alliance with European countries? We don't trust each other. This is what I'm trying to say. It's pretty much the history and the baggage. The German nuclear plants are still there. They shut them down. I don't know what it takes to turn them back on. I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I understand it's not so simple. Like, I understand shutting them down and turning them back on is actually a difficult process. Anyway, I think we talked a lot about this. I'm curious to see what Elon Musk is going to do about it. It's going to be very interesting. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.